CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are joined once again by Joe Anderson. He's a good friend. He's over there at Reliability X, and he's been out there doing his thing, and we're going to tackle this kind of list of topics that I got where we talk about this stuff all the time. And Joe's like, hey, man, I'm not really a CMMS guy. And I'm like, I don't care. You're a real maintenance guy. You're a real person. Joe, welcome back to CMMS Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, Greg. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, man, for sure, dude. I always look forward to this stuff. And I'm like, oh, man, I wonder what Joe's going to say, because we know it's going to be real, man. We got rolling before I could even take my dip out. So we'll see how that goes.
All right.
So basically what I want to do is rifle through kind of like this quick hit approach to a series of topics where I'll bring it up and you just knock it down. We don't have to go too deep in the wormhole. We're not looking for perfection here. This is more around the overall theme is guidance on CMMS implementation. So go with what you know. Don't worry about what you don't. And
it's not much, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes, man.
Yeah. I think, hey, one thing's for sure, something's going to be helpful to somebody out there. And, yeah. Plus, we get to spend this time together.
For sure. That's
all right.
That's the joy of it. That's the joy of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about gratitude, right?
Yes, sir.
Number one on the list. So I'm just going to say it and you respond. How do you successfully implement a CMMS?
You really don't. You have to successfully implement a culture.
All right.
I mean, the tools are the tools. It's all about the culture and the ability to utilize. Now, I get it. I mean, there's a lot of different systems and different approaches, to the implementation. But at the same time, none of it matters if the culture is not in place. So will they utilize it? Right. So what we see a lot of what's common in the industry is we blame the CMMS for our lack of leadership and lack of culture. Yeah. It's like if you're not utilizing the tool now and they say, oh, it's a piece of junk, we need a new one. And then they go buy a new one, but none of the behaviors and none of the practices are in place to utilize it to begin with. So they're just going to fail with that one too. So it's not the CMMS per se, it's the culture and the leadership.
So second topic was really around common CMMS implementation mistakes and how to avoid them. So this is in that same vein.
The mistake. That is also the mistake, right? Is we always blame the CMMS because we're not utilizing it. We don't have discipline. We don't have a culture that sees the value in its utilization and the data that you can get from it. It's not until you get bit by it. I'll give you a good example. I was in a facility. I can mention the name. It was in Momence, Illinois. I'll just put it that way. And according to the data, there was a case packer on one of their lines that engineering was saying need to be replaced based on the CMMS data. And all the maintenance guys were up in arms going, we don't need to replace that one. That's the good one. It's the one on the other line that needs to be replaced. It's like, well, show me the data. And they didn't have any because no one was putting work orders in. No one was utilizing the system. And now they're going to get another case packer on a line that doesn't need one. And the other one that needs to be replaced is still going to be there. Right. But what they want to do is they'll either blame the CMMS or they'll blame engineering because they made the decision based on the information they were provided.
Yeah.
And so instead of fixing that piece where you see the value in its utilization and understand life cycle costing, and there's a lot that goes into that, right? It doesn't matter what the tool is. It matters how you utilize it and the value of its utilization. And that's a culture thing.
Yeah. So let's assume for a moment, very dangerous, but let's say that we've got that culture kind of dialed in, bringing in our CMMS. We've got a CMMS. We're deploying it. We're implementing it. What do you think are the right approaches and maybe even the wrong approaches to training your team on the new CMMS?
I mean, everybody should be trained on it. The approach would be user training and spending time to understand the tool. Right now, I would probably, you'd have your admins. They should be the most thoroughly trained, and then they should be coached while they do the training and the rollout to the team, so that they can learn through the process on how to do the training and make sure it's utilized and the behaviors and the values and those things are in place as well. Um, but you definitely want to spend time, whoever you assign your admins or the head in the facility or however you go about doing it, they need to know the ins and outs of it. And, the way I would do it is I would want to, once they feel comfortable and they're trained, they should be training their own employees. But I would prefer to also sit with them, kind of coach them through it while they're doing it, just to ensure that they're doing it correctly, and that if they need feedback or whatever, yeah.
You see that guy?
Yeah, Captain Unreliability. Yeah. I'm
Don't
very
have him do the
familiar with him.
training.
Yeah. I mean, if your people don't own it, then there's your first mistake.
Yeah.
Right. And getting away from the culture that's necessary for utilization. So you have to develop that ownership mentality, and you do that through whoever the champion is for the project, and then allow them to roll it out. The other mistake we make is a lot of times we don't train operations or give them access to put in work requests. And so now you're putting all the burden on maintenance, when everyone in the facility should know how to at least put in a work request.
Yeah.
Right. Mechanics should be able to put in direct work orders, but the planner should be the one getting the work request and deciding whether or not it gets a work order or, whatever. But there needs to be an open line of communication there as well. I think one of the mistakes that you see is you give operators access to put in work requests, and then the planner will just say, we don't need that, and close it out. But no they think, our system sends an email to the operator. Do you think the operator's looking at the email?
No, they're operating.
Yeah, you need to go at least have a conversation with them and let them know why, or maybe it's a duplicate and we already have it in the system. Let them know what's going on. Because once operators see that you're not, in their head, it's a perception game. They think you're not doing anything, they're going to quit using the system. Yeah. And now you've started right down that spiral of lack of utilization, blaming CMMS instead of culture, right?
Yeah.
So you see that quite a bit, yeah.
Well, most of the time it's not really the CMMS, save a few exceptions where something doesn't work.
If you have the maturity and stuff in place, now you're being nitpicky as to what data you're wanting out of the system. And that's where you look at CMMSs to understand capabilities. Because maybe this one can't do what you want it to do. And even through customization, maybe you can't get it. So maybe you do plan on going to another one. But that requires a level of maturity that very few people get to.
Yeah.
Be able to be that nitpicky and say, okay, I want to move from X to this more complex Y, or maybe add a bolt-on on. Maybe you're on SAP or Oracle or something, and you want Meridian Analytics, or you want some, but it still requires the maturity to be there first.
Yeah.
So, but that's few and far between.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, to be honest, we help those that need help, right? Like we don't see the people that, as consultants, that don't really need the help. They're not going to call us. So right. I can only speak from those that I see, and that's what I see.
Yeah. So what about, I want to switch it to like data migration tips. And that's a touchy one, but when it comes to moving data from one system to another, let's assume we have to, assuming is dangerous. Yeah. What tips would you have for somebody when it comes to this data migration?
And well, I mean, there's a lot of variables there. You know, for example, data extraction out of one and putting it in a mass upload template for the other, they could be completely different. Um, Tip number one: hang on to your legacy data.
Yeah.
Don't dump your entire history because you're going to a new CMMS. I mean, there's still useful data there. Now, if you
Yeah.
never used it in the first place, it's trash anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But if you were utilizing the system, you don't want to lose your history. Um, and then from there, it's, are you going to do data cleanup and, conversion? So, I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. I know we like to make it complex, but there's nothing complex about it. It's an extraction and an upload, so, but it all depends on capabilities too.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but there's a lot of variables there.
I think variables aside, if you're pulling data and you have data and you're pushing it somewhere, you want to get a really good look at it and see what's really useful, meaningful, and valuable. If it's a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
nonsense, get it out of there. And if most of it's nonsense, keep that data somewhere so you can access it and just start over. Maybe that's the simple way to look at it.
Yeah, but I mean, very few people are actually going to look at it.
It's true. It's
That's a lot of data, right? Let's say you've had it for 5 years. You're going to
yeah.
go line by line and see, do I need this or not?
That's where you start talking about all those variables, and nobody's going to do that. Yeah.
But they also have tools out there that can help you write code to look at certain things and flag certain things too. But that's a whole another side of things. AI and IoT, the stuff we
Oh
love
yeah.
to hate, but there are some uses for it. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. The proper uses is what we're after. It's the nonsense we don't like. What about the topic of preventive maintenance planning? And again, I know these are all really big topics that are episode worthy in and of
What do you
themselves.
mean by preventive maintenance planning? Just
So
so I understand.
so we're launching a new CMMS. Maybe we're a first timer launching a
Hmm.
CMMS. We've never had anything, or we're moving from one to another, and we're at that stage where we need to leverage our CMMS for preventive maintenance planning. Is there anything about that part of the deployment process, the implementation process, where you would offer some cautionary words or maybe some things that are, hey, you definitely want to do this, this, and that?
I mean, that's a huge bucket to unpack because there's so many things. One, if your PMs aren't effective, why would you upload them into the new system?
Good one.
That's number one. Number two, my recommendation would be before you go to a new CMMS, get your PDM and your precision maintenance in place first, and then set up tasks to do your routes, right? And then you can migrate that over to a CMMS. But I wouldn't worry about getting a CMMS until you get your maintenance in order. The
Yeah.
problem is we like to blame software for our own inabilities, and because it's easy, it's just like we're really good at um, willingly telling the world that we're always the ones to blame, but we do the same thing,
Over and over again.
right? I mean, they're blaming us. We're blaming the software. We're blaming the tool. We're blaming this guy. We're blaming the boss. We're blaming operations. We're blaming engineering. And but really, what it comes down to is our own house isn't in order. And
Yeah.
so if I have my house in order, then I have very few PMs in my system in the first place. About 80% of my work is PDM. So it's just a work order that kicks out to say, go do my monthly route,
Yeah.
and then depending on how it's integrated into your system, the data collection gets uploaded or whatever. Right. So you should
Yeah.
have very few quote unquote PMs. About 20% of your work should be PMs, 80% should be PDM. Right. So But you get that in order, you won't be worried about a CMMS anyway.
That now there's one that a lot of people will tell you don't need a CMMS to do this stuff, but a lot of people think they do.
The benefits of the CMMS are on the backside. It's the history. It's not the fact that it spits out a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's the history that you develop as you're going through it. And most of that comes through your reactive work orders and not your PMs anyway. Outside of capturing costs and stuff for life cycle costing, I get that piece. But outside of that, right, I don't need a CMMS.
What
It's a
about
want. It's want, not a need.
what about asset hierarchies and how people should approach optimizing them?
Well, there's a standard 14224. Your taxonomy. You just stick to it. Follow the standard. There's an ISO standard for it. Just follow
Yeah.
the standard. Right? You start up high level at organization, bring it down to site, bring it down to asset, all the way down into spare parts. Right?
Yeah.
So you just follow that hierarchy. And I mean, that's why we have standards on it.
Yeah.
It's
So that
not
you don't.
do whatever you feel like. You follow the standard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why it's a standard. So my recommendation is buy ISO 14224 and follow the standard. Right? I mean, now there's some nuances to that, right? Because in some industries we have rooms instead of assets, that type of stuff. But the layering is still the same. You want to tie parent and child relationships together. A lot of times we see a twig hierarchy where all it is a bunch of assets and nothing's tied to anything. And, you see conveyor 142. You're like, what is conveyor 142 and where is it? There's no line association, no area association. You don't even know if it's at the right site. Who knows? Right? Like, it's just conveyor 142. Well, how am I supposed to do that? And then picture being an operator where, unless you know or the equipment's labeled, which most of the time it's not, you have let's say you find a bad bearing as an operator and you want to put in a work request. What asset do you tie it to? You know what I mean? Like, so, but if you follow a standard, you can easily write a visual work instruction to set out on the floor so that operators can use it when they put in a work request. That'll easily identify the assets for them.
Yeah.
And try labeling your assets. Or even better, put a QR code on it so they can use their mobile app on their phone and just snap the QR code and automatically generate a work request for that asset. But
I like
that's a
that.
whole nother thing. But most people have mobility today. A lot do anyway. And so the ability to do that's fairly easy and cheap.
All
Unless
right. So
it's
now,
washed down and you need stainless or something. But
how is AI, artificial intelligence, not actual intelligence? How is artificial intelligence transforming CMMS platforms?
there's benefits to some of it, right? But it's not really, which I don't know all the CMMS systems and what their capabilities are, right? But most of the time, it's your ability to ask some generic canned question or something, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, so I mean, there's some benefit to it, I guess, from a training learning perspective, and even maybe possibly helping you write job plans as a planner, depending on what's out there to try to help make you a little more efficient. But it's still mechanics out doing the work. So
Sure.
I mean, yeah, is there benefit? Yeah, it's probably 2%. I don't know, I would say. The problem though is that people are faddish, and sales people are very great at understanding that we're a very faddish humans are fetish. And so you talk about the shiny, nice, shiny things, and it's sexy, and people gravitate to it,
Yeah.
and so, um, but it's the way the world works, man.
Yeah. There's a few things going on out there with the people I talk to and the things I watch online. And it's not like I'm watching everything. That's impossible, but there's ways to leverage it if we're talking about machine learning, large language models, and appropriate data,
But
contextual.
again, that to get to that, you're talking 0.0001% of companies. Like, the reason for that is because they're already at a maturity level that they can afford to do it.
Right.
But what they do is we talk about it in like a blanket statement, and everybody goes, "Oh, I need to be doing that." It's like, no, you don't. You need to get your culture in place first. You don't even utilize your CMMS right now.
Yeah.
How are you going to get into machine learning when you don't even have data? And
That's
so
right.
then they expect the sensors and this type of stuff to give them all the data, which we've seen time and time again. How many times sensors give you false data because they don't see your environment, they don't feel the environment, they're not around the environment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it makes a lot of mistakes. Just because
Hallucination.
I bump a machine with the forklift, now my vibe sensor goes off and it tells me I have a bad bearing and I need to check it out. It's like, no, it got bumped by a forklift. It was a false alarm. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we see these types of things a lot where people, it's actually a detriment, to be honest. And we're going to see this soon. And it's going to be like everything else. It's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths because we're not good at educating people on what it can and can't do. And so they're going to go out, and this is going to be the thing. This is the same thing you hear when you use PDM technologies is we change out a bunch of good parts and a bunch of other stuff that we're being told is good is failing and all this type of stuff. We're just going to end up in the same boat, and it's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. And it's not that it's a bad thing, the technology itself. The problem is we don't do a good job educating people and understanding what the nuances are and things to watch out for and that type of stuff. And so, I mean, machine learning, all that's great, but it's going to be major corporations that can afford to pay for that stuff that are doing it.
Yeah.
Mom
Yeah.
and pop manufacturer down the road, they could care less. They can barely get the margins to make money. You think they're going to be able to use capital to pay for all this automated systems? No, it's not happening. You know,
Yeah. The small mom and pops, they don't need to deal with any of that stuff. Well,
the small mom and pops are 90% of the businesses. We talk about this stuff like they should be doing it. It's like they can't afford to do it. It's not. We're not. We don't. We're never realistic with ourselves. But at the same time, it's business, so they want to make money too. So they want to sell you stuff, right? And that's just the truth of things. And whoever's gullible enough to buy it, they'll buy it and make money. And we see it all the time with sensor companies. They go put 650 sensors on machines, and you never hear from them again. Or they
yeah.
have horrible support, or they, you know what I mean? Like we see it all the time.
Is there a cost to integrity? Meaning to say, when that all, I mean, that's what complicates everything, right? And everybody's like, oh man, Greg, you're anti making money and profit. No, what I want is I want clients that are thriving with whatever I'm providing for them. I want them doing well because then I get to do well, and I want that relationship so strong, not sticky, but strong, that it lasts for a long time and everybody wins.
It hurts from a business perspective.
Yeah.
Like we have to, a lot of times we turn down work or things, but that costs us money, right? But if you want to be wealthy doing this, then you do whatever it takes. And so, you know, and then when it comes to integrity, that all is I'm trying not to get myself in trouble.
Not too much, anyway.
It's almost cliche. Well, for example, customers want you to do what they think they need, not what you know they need.
That's a
Right?
touchy subject, right?
Well, it is, but no one wants to hear the truth. We can say we do, but the reality is no one wants to hear the truth. And so it's like, for example, we'll get a call. They'll say, we want to do PM optimization. Like, how many times before have you done PM optimization? 4. And why are we doing it again? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let us come out and assess your site and let's see what you need, right? But a lot of times it's, you tell them, what's they need to do to make problems go away, and they don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They want it to be this other thing that they wanted. So you have this dilemma where they're asking you to do something. We want to make money, so we take the job, right? But it's not what they need. So is that integrity?
Well,
If I know you need something, but I choose to just let you continue down the path of wrecking your business, right? So there's a lot to that, man. That's a loaded question, man.
yeah, no, I get it, man. And I want to keep us from spinning out, so we're going to bag this episode for the overall CMMS topic. And Joe, as always, thank you for being here with me on CMMS Radio.
Nice, man.
Always
good
keeping it
having
real, brother. Yeah,
I'm thankful to be here. Thank you.
You got it. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.